Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vishnu Sahasranama, name number 517 is Saksi. A name that can be very easily understood. Means the witness. In every theistic tradition, it's understood that God is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. That means He knows everything, He's all-powerful, and He's present everywhere. So two of these facets come together, that He's everywhere and He knows everything, come together in the name Saksi. One reason He knows everything is because He sees everything. He sees everything from outside and inside. From outside, He's in His macro form, He looks down and sees everything, and He's inside everything. So there's no place for us to hide. If we think I'll hide away and do some nonsense, we can't. We can hide away from human eyes, but we can't hide away from God's eyes. They're everywhere. He can sarvato kshi. His eyes are everywhere. Gatir bhata Prabhu. Gatir bhatur Prabhu Sakshi. He states in Bhagavad Gita, I am the goal, the master. Prabhu also means master in another way. Bhartum in the maintainer. Prabhu the powerful. And Sakshi, the witness. So the witness, we may not want God to see us if we're doing all nonsense things, but we should be happy if we're doing good things. We should know anyway that He's seeing it, whatever we do. Therefore, this question came up also, that Srila Prabhupada remembered at school. He was at Christian school in Calcutta, and the teacher would think to rebut the understanding of reincarnation which all his students had, because pretty much all of his students would be boys, not girls, from Hindu backgrounds who believed in reincarnation. But the Christians thought this was a stupid theory, and the teacher would say, "Well, see, how can you say someone takes another birth? They did bad things. Who's the witness?" Which is a pretty atheistic kind of statement, supposed to be coming from a Christian. Obviously, God's the witness. Directly and indirectly, He has all His representatives. Not only He sees everything, but there are so many different empowered living beings who are subtly manifest within the universe. Therefore, the sun sees, the moon sees, the overseeing deities of the various elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, they see everything that we do. The demigods of the directions, Yamaraj, they're all seeing what we're doing. Therefore, karmana daiva netrena jantur dehopapateya. According to our karma, under the direction of the devas, which means the Supreme Lord, and His representatives, the living being attains bodies, different bodies. In that same section of Bhagavad Gita, in a different section, he's Upadrashta. He's the secondary seer. We see, he sees. Humans don't make very good witnesses, actually. We'll find that often it happens that different witnesses will say different things about some. Witnesses are called for crimes. They may say different things. They perceive it differently. And and people tend to perceive different situations according to their outlook. For instance, once Srila Prabhupada was walking in, I believe it was in Regent's Park in London, a famous park, big park in central London, early in the morning, and some ducks you might not have seen, but they all, especially in the cold weather, at night they all huddle together, they stay together to keep warm in the cold weather. And they all stand together, they sleep like that, or sit. So they were in the pathway because Srila Prabhupada went early in the morning. I think nowadays they lock the parks at night. They don't allow people to stay. They don't keep the parks open at night. So Prabhupada was walking, and the ducks were in the pathway, and one devotee went and said, "Shoot them out of the way." You know what shoo means? Shoo means you say to an animal or a child, "Get out of the," means get out of the way. Shoot them out. Shoo off, you rascals. And Prabhupada said, just as you think they are rascals, they think you are a rascal. You're thinking they're a rascal, they're getting in our way, and they're thinking you're a rascal, we're just sitting here peacefully sleeping, and you just come and get us out of the way. So, another phenomenon is that if you see the world news in one country, in the newspaper, and you see in another country, it'll give a very different perspective. For instance, in the Indian press, you'll always see that Pakistanis are infiltrating the line of control. In the Pakistani press, it's the Indians. It's always the Indians who are the aggressors. And from the Indian side, it's always the press. So what's going on actually? Who can tell? Krishna knows. He sees actually what's going on. He knows. If you want a good witness for sure, then you have to call in God. And that was actually done. Saksi Gopal. That story is there in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Of the Brahmin who called the deity of Gopal to be his witness that an elder Brahmana had given his word to this younger Brahmana to give his daughter in marriage, and that deity is still there. Now he's close to Puri. First he went to Vijayanagar, I guess that's Vizianagaram now, that's the anglicized way of saying it, in Andhra Pradesh. He walked all the way from Vrindavan. Then he was taken as spoils of war by one of the Gajapati dynasty kings of Orissa, Mukunda Dev, maybe, I'm not sure which one, to Cuttack. Then, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him, Sakshi Gopal. In Chaitanya Charitamrita is mentioned that he and Nityananda and the others, they visited the temple of Sakshi Gopal, Shakhi Gopal in Oriya, they'll say, in Cuttack. Then he moved to Puri, but he had an argument with Jagannath, and so he moved just a little distance from Puri, few kilometers, and he's staying there now. So Sakshi, he's the witness. He knows everything. Be careful. Be careful. Or be happy that, as in Ishopanishad, it's stated that, "Oh my Lord, you know everything. You've seen everything I've done. So now you know how I've tried to serve you. So now please take me to you." It may be fearful for those who are sinful. Just like Srila Prabhupada said about the police, that though, of course, this is in an ideal situation. The world's not so very ideal, but the law-abiding citizens, they don't feel any fear from the police. They feel protected by the police. Whereas the criminals, for them the police are, fearful. Police are coming. Something very fearful. But for the law-abiding citizens, if there's some disturbance and they hear, the police are coming, good, police are coming. So in the same way, Krishna sees everything. For the devotees, that's good. Of course, the devotee wants to serve Krishna selflessly, but it's not that he's I'll serve Krishna, and whether or not he recognizes, but actually we want that Krishna will be pleased by our service. If he doesn't even look at it or see it, then where's the rasa, where's the reciprocation? We perform service with Krishna, we want that Krishna will see that. And Krishna will appreciate. Krishna is very appreciative. That's his tendency, to be very appreciative. Ishvara Shobhav Bhaktena Loy Aparad Alpo Sheva Bahumane Atapajanto Prasad is the very nature of the Supreme Lord, that he doesn't take very seriously offenses by his devotees, those who are sincerely trying to serve him. But if they do even a little service, he takes it to be something very great, and in reciprocation gives his very self to them. So he is very appreciative by nature, and devotees want to do something to please him. It's not just a formula. Patrang pushpang palang. Okay, we have to offer something. We can do it as a formula. I have to do it. But if we think how to please Krishna, if we really think how to please Krishna, so often we see devotees, they make a nice plate, they arrange the food very nicely on the plate, very aesthetically, put some flowers, make everything, and cook nicely, and they try to make it look very nice also. By just trying to do everything, so everything is very pleasing to Krishna. So just so that Krishna will smile and say, that's very nice. He saw it, very good. So that's it, Krishna witnesses. We may be sitting alone in a room and chanting, calling out to Krishna. Krishna hears. Krishna is everywhere. He knows. So for devotees, they're very glad that Krishna is the witness. Another thing is that there may be, especially in the modern age, there may be so many misunderstandings. People may misrepresent what we do. We may get blamed for something which we feel we didn't do anything wrong. We know that, Krishna's there. Krishna's the witness. For some reason I have to undergo I'm being blamed for something. Really, I can't see that I did anything wrong, but Krishna knows. So, in the immediate situation, I have to suffer, maybe due to some previous activity I did. So now I have to suffer in this way, but Krishna knows. So why should I be overly concerned? Of course, that doesn't mean we should always think that I'm right, or think that I can't do anything wrong. But there may be cases where we feel we're seriously misunderstood. And somehow we're not able to convince others. But okay, Krishna knows. There are so many people get put in prison for some crime they didn't do. They may even be executed, and later they get a posthumous pardon, which is not very helpful. Sorry. But Krishna knows. And even if you're in jail for doing. I was told that so many people in the jail, if you go in the jail, so many people say, they think, well, I didn't do it. But it can't be that everyone in the jail is wrongly accused or wrongly convicted. So anyway, God knows. And many times, you see, I get this, devotees come to me complaining, and someone comes and says, no, it's not like this, it's not like this. They say different things, and how can I say? How am I supposed to know who's one of them's lying, or why? Or maybe they both saw the situation differently. What can I say? God knows. He knows. I'm not God. He can say what happened, actually. Some commentators club this name with the previous name. So we get Vinayata Sakshi, which means that he sees everything which everyone does, but he particularly likes to see what his devotees are doing. Those who are very humble, he particularly likes to see those who are humble and devoted. He witnesses everyone, but he particularly likes to see those. Humble means they're worshipping. Worshipping means to take a subordinate or inferior position. So he particularly likes to see this. Baladev Vidyabhushan, he gives the understanding of Sakshi as being that Krishna knows how his devotees are distressed from not having his association. He sees that, how his devotees are pining from not having his association. So he sees that. He's not cold or unresponsive. He wants to satisfy his devotees. So he sees they want me, and then he reciprocates with that by giving his association. Hare Krishna. Yeah, that's all there is to say. Now for this. Oh yeah, and another point is that he's so concerned with the welfare of his devotees, he's always watching them, just to see that no harm comes to them. Just like you'll see the chicken, they walk, the mother hen and all the little hens, if she moves this way, they all move that way. They all move that way with her. So she's always watching over them. So that's another understanding. He's always watching to make sure that no harm comes to them. Yeah.
I always doubt when I read the story of how Yamana was cursed by a sage for some wrong.
Oh, what was that? Manduka Muni? He cursed. Because in his childhood, he, with a straw, he poked some ants. And therefore there was some robbery going on in his area, and the police came and they saw all the criminals, and they saw him. He just happened to be in the vicinity. That quite often happens, it seems. The police there's some crime, and the police pick up people at the scene of the crime who may not actually be the criminal. So he was sentenced to death by impalation, which is a particularly horrible way to die, especially if you get if it goes straight through your heart. You know what impalation means there? That's described about Gopinath Pattanayak in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was going to be killed like that. They have some rod with a spike at the top, and they throw you on top of that, so that your body gets impaled. That's why it's called impalation, and the spikes sticking maybe goes all the way through the body or partially, and then they just leave you there to die, if you don't die immediately. So anyway, this Muni was freed at the last moment. When the news went to the king and said, "Oh, it's a great rishi, it's going to be a great sin if he's killed." So then the rishi went to Yamaraj and said, "Hey, why, what's going on? Why did you put me through this?" And he said, "Because you did that in your childhood." So Muni was upset. Said, "What kind of judgment is this? You're not judging like a you're like a Shudra, so you should become a Shudra." So then he became a Shudra. He became the son of Vyasadeva by the maidservant. There's Ambika, Ambalika. Ambalika didn't want to cohabit with Vyas, as Bhishma had made that arrangement. So she didn't want to do that. So she sent her maidservant. So the general rule is that the son becomes the caste of the mother, not the father. So he was known as a Shudra, Vidur.
How could this happen? The Lord is Sakshi.
The Lord is the Sakshi. How can that happen? Well, that's the same question. How can any bad thing happen to a devotee? Krishna has his plan. By doing that, he was able to be, by that, Yamaraj was able to be present during Krishna's activities, Krishna's pastimes. He had a role to play there. Very wise. Very wise. Vidur Niti is noted even up to the present day. That Vidur's wise advice. How can it happen? Well, anyone in this world. Prabhupada, he notes in the 7th canto that sinful activities everyone becomes answerable for. Even if one is as powerful as Kartivya Rajuna, he had to suffer for his sinful activities. Ravana, and he says Parashuram also in this regard, because Parashuram, for killing so many Kshatriyas, then he had to then he made a Kurukshetra, the Samanta Panchaka, that was filled with all the blood of the Kshatriyas, and he had to perform purifying activities. So eventually he retired from that, and he's sitting somewhere up there in the Himalayas waiting to become one of the Saptarshis in the next millennium. So actually Parashuram is not subject to sinful reaction, but it seems like that. Yamaraj is a devotee of Krishna, he's not subject to sinful reaction. But it seems like that. By Krishna's arrangement, the great pure devotees, because they're living in this world and acting in this world, it seems as if they're under the influence of the material energy, but it's actually the spiritual energy acting upon them via the material energy. Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur notes in this regard that if all pure devotees were all very high class, wealthy, healthy, good looking, then people wouldn't have any hope. They'd think, well, it's beyond me. I can't be like that. So it gives hope also when we see that even apparently, and they teach us also, pure devotees, by appearing to be like conditioned souls. They in this way they show us how we can go from our situation to a situation of pure devotion.